Good morning, friends. It is April 2nd, 2020. Pandemic all over the world. I just had cycle 3 yesterday of the Doxil that I take. By the way, my name's Leslie, and this is Leslie's Cancer Confessions. It's a place where I can share the things that I have happen in my metastatic breast cancer life with you. If you have or know someone who has this type of cancer, you can watch and learn and go along with me as I live and learn how to navigate life with stage 4 terminal metastatic breast cancer. The current situation with my cancer is I'm being treated for it in the midst of a pandemic where we are all asked, and even in some states or countries being told, you can't leave your home, you can't do anything other than essential stuff like filling your vehicle with fuel and going and getting groceries. And of course, if you require medical treatment, you now may have to call and ask for permission to go to the hospital because some people are not being seen unless they have a life-threatening reason to be seen. So you would call your doctor and they say, oh, you have allergies and think you have a sinus infection. We'll just call a prescription in for you. You don't need to be seen. If you're sure that that's what you have, we'll give you a prescription for antibiotics and you should be good. On the other hand, if you got in a car accident and you're in bad shape, they'll take you to the hospital, but supplies are running low. I had an experience going for my treatment, my Doxil treatment yesterday. It was quite a thing because let me go back 12 days ago. Through the course of having my cancer and having changed chemo type regimens from infusion to several long good years of being able to administer my own chemo by taking oral targeted therapies in my home daily, I am now back on having infusions. About 12 days ago, I developed what I knew, because I'm pretty familiar with my body, was a urinary tract infection. In case you are a male with metastatic breast cancer who watches this, I don't know, do men get UTIs? Do they get bladder infections? How I know I have a bladder infection, and the general consensus with other women, is it hurts to pee. You feel like you have got to go to the bathroom so bad or you're going to wet your pants, and you get to the bathroom and you only drip a couple of drips. Now, getting those couple of drips out is painful. It feels as if you have a broken bottle of glass in your bladder, and as you're peeing, bits of glass are coming out. It's very, very uncomfortable, very painful. So I knew I had this, and I called the online on-call doctor, who looked at my chart, saw that I had had many of these before, and many times through different treatments, and that I've been the one that I identified that it was a problem each time. So he called in the prescription to give me antibiotics, and then he asked me to take my temperature, which at that moment was 101.8. This was a Sunday night. So he called in the prescription to a 24-hour pharmacy, and then he took note of the fever I was running, and then he said he needed to speak with my doctor, Dr. Meyer. So he called me back and said, in addition to treating you as a urinary tract infection, we have concerns because I have bilateral pleural effusions in my lungs. I've had surgery to try to correct that a year ago with bilateral pleurodesis. That didn't work. My lungs filled up again with fluid, and in addition to that, I have 3 new problems called loculations, where that fluid literally had lung tissue grow around it and trap it in certain spots. That can't be removed, but it also pushes on the area where the fluid is still contained in the pleura. So that's a problem. So they're thinking of that, and I was recently in the hospital on the 22nd of January for the Afinitor causing pneumocystis, I think that is the correct pronunciation. Essentially, swelling of the lining of my lungs was caused from taking my chemo that I was on at the time. So there's a lot of things going on with my lungs, and there's a pandemic, which starts in your lungs. And I had a fever, and of course, being cautious, they said you need to go to a COVID-19 testing area and get swabbed. So the next morning I got up, and that was the very first thing I did. We went to the center. They told me it would take 72 hours to get my test results, which kind of put me off because I would be getting them back a day after the day I was supposed to have my chemo. So they called me and they canceled my chemo. They said, you can't come being possibly infected with the coronavirus. Great, I understand. No problem. But then they rescheduled for this week, assuming that I would have my test back. It wasn't. It still isn't. So we had a lot of anxious conversations about whether I should have my chemo or wait for this test, because at that point it was 10 days that I hadn't gotten it. And there is a lot of people being tested. There's a long backlog. Long story short, I don't know that I don't have the virus. You can't know. You can't look at a person and say they're good, they're not, whatever. I mean, even if they're coughing and have symptoms, they could have spring allergies. You don't know. You just don't know. But I do know that what I was having problems with was completely urinary tract infection. I took my first antibiotic Sunday night, and I was feeling 95% better Monday. I do cough, but as I said, I have the pleurodesis. I've had surgery. I had this lung whatever that I was in the hospital for, and I'm still recovering. So I'm like, I've been in isolation for like 3 going on 4 weeks. Haven't been around anybody other to go to the hospital for treatments. So the doctor and I talked about what's worse, staying home and not receiving treatment, or going in and getting treatment, but possibly being exposed to the virus. I don't know. The decision was I needed to go. I couldn't miss my treatment too much longer because it had been a week, but each week you do not have it. It's like starting over at the beginning. So having it out of your system for a certain length of time takes you back to square one. So I did go, and I had my treatment yesterday, which is a story time in itself. I'll make it short. I go to 100 Oaks Women's Cancer Treatment Center through Vanderbilt, and the infusion rooms are little cubbies that have curtains to separate you from being seen. But because I have not got my test results back, they didn't want me to go there. That's not a secure enough or private enough, controlled environment enough to treat me and keep all of the other patients and nurse safe if I cough or whatever. So they sent me down to the Ingram Cancer Treatment Center on 21st, downtown Nashville, because they have doors in their private rooms, and they chose the one room on the infusion floor that is the room they treat to people who have things that are contagious. They wear the shielded masks and the rubber gowns and put big signs on the door that, only the nurse who is attending can go in and out, and that you have to remove all your gowns before coming out and put brand new ones coming in. And boy, do they wipe every bit of that equipment every single time they touch it. So that's what I did yesterday. We went there, Mo and I, as my caregiver. He's the only one who was allowed to be with me. Immediately walking in the door, you're met with a bunch of people at tables. One took each of our temperatures. Another table asked us all the pertinent questions. Have we been out of the country? Have we hung around anyone who has been out of the country? Lots of talk about fevers and temperatures and symptoms, and they were certain that my bilateral pleurodesis and pleural effusions are the cause of my scratchy voice and my occasional that I do. So they sent me up to that isolation room and got me going. I did not see my doctor. She phoned in on a Zoom call, and we spoke at length about her being certain that it was only a UTI because of the quick response I had to antibiotics. And she wants me to have a CT scan this month before my next appointment with her to see if when I was in the hospital, they did a lot of tests, and those tests showed that I had those ground glass opacities in my lungs had multiplied. They stopped counting the amount because there were so many more. They want to see if those have shrunk or disappeared on this Doxil treatment. I also had been having bone pain right here. And I had, at that time, 3 bone growths that were metastatic, and they want to see if those gone. Also in May, I'm scheduled to have an MRI to see the previous scan showed that the mets in my brain was just completely gone. They couldn't even see a spot where the radiation had left a scar. So they just want to look at that. That's pretty much all that I've been going through, and how I'm feeling. I feel a little off for a bit after having the Doxil treatment. It makes my bones ache. It makes me nauseous. And like a week after, like 7 to 10 days after, I go through a week of just being so fatigued and not thinking super clearly. Those moments when you walk into a room intent on doing something, and you get to that room and you go, why am I here? What was I doing? I was in here for a reason. Then you leave the room, and 5 minutes later you go, that's what I was doing. So my plan is to just rest, make sure my appointments are scheduled, and take it easy and stay in my little bubble in my home. It's been, I'm an introvert. I can be extroverted in public and enjoy being around people, but for the most part, I'm really content and happy just, connecting with technology and being in my home, being around my family and my friends and my dogs. And so I'm holding up well with this new pandemic situation. It doesn't truly inconvenience me too much. I guess maybe I'm becoming a homebody, and I'm fine with that. And that's I just kind of deal with things by listening to music and podcasts and reading books. I need to charge my Kindle. I have not done yoga in 8 weeks because with the oxygen situation, felt like I might fall over and hurt myself, but I'm going to start jumping in it slower to it, and build back up, because it does a lot for my mind and my breathing. And so that's my goal. How are you guys holding up? I would be really interested to know what things you're doing to help you cope. Are you watching a lot of Netflix and Hulu? Are you reading? What books are you reading? Heard any good jokes lately? Are you walking around with your dogs? Are you playing toys with your cat? Some of you that I know have birds. Those can be really fun. I just want to know what you guys are doing, how you're managing during this time, what things you're doing to stay safe and keep yourself and your families well. Just touch base with that in the comments below. Let me know. And if you have any questions about the stories that I've just told you about, what I've been going through and what's been happening to me, feel free to ask them. If you know somebody who has, any kind of cancer that may be taking Doxil to treat theirs, or information on how to live and thrive with metastatic breast cancer, please let them know about this video. There's videos going back 9 years. If they're not on Doxil, surely they've been on something that I've taken. Feel free to share and watch and ask questions. I enjoy commenting and answering with you. So have a great Thursday, and thanks for stopping. Take a moment to thumbs up if you liked this video. You can also embed it and share it with other people through email. There's a little bell next to the subscribe button that will let you know the moment I've uploaded something, and it helps you to know when the videos are there to see. So hit the bell, take a moment to subscribe, and share this video. Might help somebody. And have a great day. Bye.